Ow, man! Top of the morning to you, laddies. Welcome to the Frickcast. Today we have Duke Cannon's Big Arse Brick of Soap, Shamrock Edition. This is the St. Patrick's Day Limited offered by Duke Cannon. Now this is the first Duke brick I've ever used. I've been using natural soap for years now, mostly Dr. Squatch and more recently Sudsy Bear, so I will be approaching it from that angle. Now, as a veteran Squatcher, I've often seen Duke Cannon's name brought up and compared to Squatch. In fact, there is a rivalry between them. Now, I've never used Duke Cannon, but I have been looking at them for a while now, and when I saw they had a Shamrock brick, well, I knew if I was ever going to try one of their bars, this would be the one. So in this video, I wanted to start off by asking the question, is Duke Cannon a natural brick? How does it compare to the competition, namely Squatch? And finally, how does this bar actually feel when used? First off, I gotta say the box is very nifty. Duke Cannon is on point with their packaging, and the bar itself is huge. It's a 10-ouncer, so about twice as big as a Dr. Squatch brick. That's your main selling point here. For $2 more, you're getting twice the size, and it's probably going to last a lot longer as well. But that may not necessarily be a good thing. One reason for this is when we look at the ingredients, which at first glance look rather shite when compared to a more natural bar of soap. Now while the names here may look like giant red flags, let's take a wee little gander at them a bit more. We're just gonna slam through these. Sodium tallowate is actually the fatty tissue of sheep or cattle, known as tallow, combined with lye to make soap. It isn't tested on animals, but apparently it's made from animals. Sodium palmate, sodium cocaine, and sodium palm kernelate are basically fatty acid salts of palm oil, coconut oil, and palm kernel acid, respectively. These are pretty common in soaps and are usually safe and natural. Next up is water, and then glycerin, which is just a natural byproduct of the soap making process, found in all natural soaps. Fragrance is kind of vague, but this is usually referring to an artificial scent that is added with chemicals. Since the scent or fragrance is considered a trade secret, the exact mixture doesn't have to be disclosed, but it can contain many harmful chemicals. This is probably the most problematic of all the ingredients here, and it's not unique to Duke Cannon. To be fair, Dr. Squatch lists natural fragrance on many of their bars, and while there may be essential oils and floral extracts that make up a good portion of the mix to help earn them that natural label, it's important to note that we don't know everything that's being put in there. So anytime you see fragrance listed as an ingredient, it's a bit troubling. There's also mica and titanium dioxide. Now once again, to be fair, both of these ingredients can be found in some Dr. Squatch soaps. However, they are naturally occurring and are generally safe for use, but they could potentially be synthetically derived, which I'm not sure if Duke Cannon does or not, but they aren't really harmful ingredients. The bar also has sodium chloride, salt, pretty standard, but then there is chlorophyllin copper complex. This boy's pretty complicated, but it's a semi-synthetic ingredient derived from chlorophyll, which is a natural green pigment found in plants and algae. It's often used as a green colorant in food, so I suspect this gives our brick here its shamrock color. It's an antimicrobial ingredient and also reduces odors, so it actually does have some benefits, and there doesn't seem to be any known negative effects on skin. But since it contains copper, many tend to avoid it. So far, not so bad. While I'm not a huge fan of all the ingredients present here, I'll be honest, I thought it may be worse. And now we have our last ingredient, pentasodium pentate. Now this is not a naturally occurring compound, but it's mainly used here to reduce soap scum. Interesting enough, it's actually been recently banned in the use of cosmetics, including soaps, in the EU, having to be off shelves by December 2023. This is due to it being considered a reproductive toxin. Now, in the US, the FDA considers it to be safe, and it's generally seen as a low-risk ingredient. But yeah, probably not the best thing out there. So overall, we see some good and some bad here. Now, to be fair, Duke Cannon isn't marketing this bar as all natural from what I can tell, just that it's paraben and phthalate free. So before we actually try this brick, I just want to do a quick comparison of 3 soaps. So in the middle, we have our Shamrock Boy from Duke Cannon. On the right is Dr. Squatch's own St. Paddy's Day brick, the Irish Cream and Whiskey. and on the left is Irish Spring Original, which also says it's paraben and phthalate free. So when we put these side by side and compare them, we get a better picture. I actually thought the Irish Spring would be worse than it is, but it looks surprisingly similar to Duke Cannon, to be honest. I'm not going to go through all of the Irish Spring ingredients, but I would consider Duke Cannon an upgrade. Still, a more noticeable difference is between Duke Cannon and Dr. Squatch. Other than the vaguely listed natural fragrance, the Irish creamed whiskey is much more appealing. Not just natural compounds and saponified oils used to make soap, but oat milk and stout beer. Cool ingredients with skin-related benefits. Ingredients you can actually pronounce without having to Google what they are. You'll find nice lists like this with companies like Squatch and Sudsy Bear, with each bar having its own unique ingredients, but not so much with Duke Cannon, which often uses a very similar ingredient list for every bar. But enough of just reading off names. How does the Shamrock Boy actually perform in the shower? Is it more sham or more rock? Well, let's take a closer look at the bar itself. To be fair, there's just something satisfying about this giant shamrock-colored brick. And yes, the scent does live up to expectations. It's just a straight-up shamrock smell. Not the strongest scent out there, but it's enough. It's exactly the reason I bought this bar. Now, I'm not sure if they intend for you to use the whole big arse brick of soap all at once, but like I always do with any bar, I went to cut off part of it to use. And this is exactly when I knew I wasn't dealing with the highest quality bar. Instead of gliding right through the brick, like it would with Squatch or Sudsy Bear, it felt like cutting into a piece of plastic. The knife didn't even cut the whole way through. The soap broke off at the bottom. Also tried to use a Squatch soap gripper in it as well, and again it wouldn't go in. But after using it, it kind of formed around it. So when I first used it in the shower, there were a couple things I noticed. It really struggled to work up a lather and had no exfoliation. Subsequent uses of the brick, the lather did get better, but I never really felt clean using this. My skin felt kind of rubbery and dry after. Now, I tested this bar at the same time I used the Jurassic bricks from Squatch, and it kind of gave me more appreciation for those bars that had a gritty exfoliation to them, a thicker lather, and just felt better overall. The Shamrock Boy wasn't horrible to use, but it was a noticeable downgrade in quality compared to what I've used in the last few years. But I'm kind of a soap snob now, so yeah. Just the way this bar cracked, crumbled, and peeled sitting on the soap saver was kind of disgusting, to be honest. This may piss some Duke Cannon fans off, but I kind of like using this bar as a hand soap. The Shamrock scent is great, and with the packaging and longevity of the bar, I see why people like these soaps. Now, would I ever buy or use Duke Cannon again? Probably not, but I will say that if somebody had given me this bar years ago, I would have really enjoyed using this brick. It's a noticeable step up in quality of most generic soaps, and I would recommend Duke Cannon to someone who's maybe on the fence about Squatch or natural men's soap because of the price. This is a nice middle ground. It may end up being a gateway soap to some of the better stuff out there, or maybe not. In the end, Dr. Squatch is objectively better than Duke Cannon in my opinion. The only argument otherwise is quantity over quality, and that's fine. Now, if all of this talk of chemicals, unnatural ingredients, and vaguely listed fragrance in Duke Cannon and also Dr. Squatch has you a bit worried, I want to show you one last comparison. This is Duke Cannon's most natural soap, and it is unscented. Most notably, it doesn't have the artificial fragrance added. But here's also a soap with no fragrance added. This is Sudsy Bear's most recent release for Valentine's Day, Gettin' Lucky. And just take a look at the ingredients list of each. It doesn't even compare. The Gettin' Lucky actually does have some scent though, a relatively strong one too, without the use of fragrance, as its scent comes from the pulverized strawberries and cocoa ingredients used in this bar. I'm not just shilling for Sudsy Bear, but I wanted to show that a great bar can exist without some of the more questionable ingredients. Still, I'm glad I tried the Shamrock Boy. And I'm not telling anybody you shouldn't use Duke Cannon. I think they fit in nicely in sort of a middle ground area. But I hope this video was helpful if you were looking to know more about Duke Cannon, as well as how it compares to companies like Dr. Squatch. And now I'd like to hear your guys' opinions in the comments down below. Have you tried this Shamrock Boy? What do you think of Duke Cannon? How do you feel it compares to Squatch, Sudsy Bear, and generic soap? As always, thanks for watching. Frick Nation, stay nifty.
Ow, mine!